This is Ted Goldsboro with Living History, and our guest today, Chief Tom Hayden, Jr. of the Merion Fire Company of Ardmore, and we welcome you back to another segment. Chief, we were talking about, I'd like to talk about early communication, like how were fire people notified in the old days. I mean, they rang a bell way back times.
Yeah, well, the way old was the ringing of the bell and telephones, but in the 50s, two-way radios had come about, and they were on all the apparatus, and they were big tube radios that were on the apparatus with large, long whip antennas. But we've come a long way today with the systems that we have in place.
Do most firemen on the scene, fire people, carry something that they can communicate with each other in the engine and you? And
well, in the engine, most of our apparatus has headsets, so they can hear the radio transmissions and they can communicate with each other on the truck. When they get off the truck and they go to fight a fire, each one of our firefighters would have a walkie-talkie. And really, that's also for his safety, besides being able to communicate for the tactics of the fire.
Okay.
But we've come a long way to have every firefighter with a communication device so that he can contact the incident commander if he feels that he's in trouble, or vice versa. The incident commander could say to his men, you need to get out of a structure or whatever. So we have real constant communications on the fire ground.
Okay. This picture shows a spiraling phone cord, and he's got like an old headset from the old days.
When he transmitted, his headlights probably dimmed.
Now we're getting into fires. That's kind of the point of interviewing you. An early fire back in 1940 that did quite a bit of damage, I guess, at that time was, I guess, near the trolley today, the trolley station.
Bella Italia, which was Taylor's lot back then, which is the Carl Schaffel Plaza today. I believe there were some stores there over Memorial Day weekend with heavy fire in them that ended up destroying them, and I don't think they could have been rebuilt. That was over the Memorial Day weekend, I believe.
Another big fire, which I believe Merion assisted on.
Yep, there's our truck right there in that picture. It was actually a fire in Bryn Mawr called Ryan and Christie. That was a very bad fire in the early 50s. And very unfortunate, one firefighter from Bryn Mawr Fire Company perished, George Buckland Sr. at that fire. He was a line of duty death. Firefighters had a real tough time putting that fire out. It was a furniture storage facility. Also in the late 80s, the building burned again. It was a fire in the rear of the building, probably wasn't as intense as this fire back in the early 50s, but kind of history repeated itself, and on that fire no one was injured.
In this fire picture, you can see men up on a roof up there, which is really scary to me.
Yep, that's a long way up.
And there's an Autocar, your Autocar
that's
fire truck
our
here.
Autocar fog truck that's in Phoenix, Arizona right now was on that call.
But then over on this side, there must have been an Autocar repair shop or service
There was a
place.
truck repair shop there right next to a diner that was in between, the Blue Comet Diner, I think the name of it was.
Seems as though there's several pictures of fires on Lancaster Avenue in downtown Ardmore. What causes that? Older buildings, or?
I don't really know the cause of it. I mean, we're so much better for fire protection today with modern fire protection, alerting, sprinklers, retrofitted sprinklers, and anything that's new is completely fire protected. But that particular fire was right between the Ardmore VFW and what originally at 39 East Lancaster Avenue was Suburban Office or Suburban Typewriter there. It was a car dealership, and that was in the mid-60s on a Sunday morning, and that building had completely burnt to the ground, and that's where there's a small municipal lot today. So they had ordered the parking meters after that call to make a municipal lot.
This, I wanted to tell the audience that if it has a red border here, it's from your collection, and I took a digital picture of that.
That's a fire that would have been in the 70s. That is the Haverford train station. We arrived there, and it was well involved, and it was actually running down the roof. That fire probably extended 65 or 70 feet down the railroad platform. So firefighters got together with the master streams and were able to control that fire and put that fire out. And the original buildings there, it was rebuilt because it was a substantial stone building, and it was Page and Biddle fire, again, that's Bryn Mawr's fire, but that's a picture of Ardmore's ladder, or 52 ladder in the front of it. So as a larger fire would happen in another town, they would need the mutual aid of all the surrounding companies. And very, very common, Ardmore and Bryn Mawr assist each other even today, very, very often.
This was this is a fuel truck, and I guess it was making a delivery.
Yes, yep, and it caught fire. The cab caught fire there. The fuel did not ignite out of that tank, but the trick is with any type of fuel truck is to get the fire out very quickly before the flame impinges on the tank in the back and heats up whatever material is in there. And our firefighters rolled up on this and were able to get water and get that cab fire controlled very quickly before a bigger disaster could take place. That was on Woodside Road, right off of Montgomery Avenue.
Wasn't there a fire, and I don't have a picture of it, but wasn't there a fire down near Lancaster where a car smashed into a fuel truck?
Yeah, they called that Three Sisters Hill. A tanker truck had hit head-on with a car down there, and there was fatalities involved in it, and a very, very large fire because the gasoline truck, the different compartments blew up as the fire went through the fuel truck. So very, very large fire in history.
This was St. Mary's on Ardmore Avenue.
Yes, that's St. Mary's. That's kind of the school part of it is directly behind our firehouse. That was on a Sunday morning in the late 60s, and our firefighters just came right out, went through the parking lot, and went to work. All the fire companies in the township were there to try to control this, and they actually saved the church, but this end of it burnt substantially. They were able to rebuild this to what is there as the St. Mary's today.
Because we're along railroad tracks, for some reason, in the old days, there seemed to be a lot of fires along railroad tracks.
Yeah, when I first became a firefighter, we were up on that railroad many, many times during the year. We're not up there quite as much as we used to be because there's cement railroad ties, which we did not have, and the trains are much better today than they used to be. Plus, they're not really running freights up there. We used to get maybe brakes or boxes that would spark off the train, and it could actually light a fire from City Line Avenue to Berwyn. There are some heavy brush that grows there so many years. This particular fire is probably up in the Haverford section behind some of those apartments, and there's some old stuff, bamboo in there that gets burning, and the flames get real high and dramatic. And then we get in there and have to call a lot of resources, but tend to get it knocked down quickly. And as dramatic as it is, we kind of dramatically get it put out quickly.
Is it hard to get your equipment in there because of commercial buildings?
Yeah, and basically the tactic is we got to put a fire truck in every one of those driveways to try to protect the buildings. The brush along the railroad is meaningless, but we got to keep it out of all those buildings, and there's apartment houses up the Haverford and the garages down in the Wynwood section.
This one's dramatic. Was that Hill and Perry?
That's a Hill and Perry on County Line Road. I see one of the members with the hose. He still runs today with us. This was back in the early 70s. It's actually on the Haverford Township side of County Line Road, but back then the Merion Fire Company responded there on the original alarm, and they were fighting the fire that's in the back of several trucks in a garage on County Line Road in Ardmore.
This was a bad one at Lancaster and Anderson.
Yep. That was January 30th, 1977. That was a three-story building called 3 East Lancaster Avenue, right at Anderson and Lancaster. Very bitter, cold night, 5 degrees out, very high winds, and the fire started with a space heater and burnt all the way up through the roof, and then the building started to crumble. Yeah, there's a picture of our ladder truck that was right on Lancaster Avenue, straddling the yellow line. And the residual water that came out of that building and landed on that truck was frozen in that position. That fire went on for probably 48 hours. We were on location and were able to shuttle people and different apparatus in and out to try to get to the seat of that fire, because they had to bring a crane in and remove the center of that building, and we would get to the deep-seated hot spots and put them out. Some of the other problems with that fire were the brands that were coming up over, and they were actually blowing in the eastern direction, so we needed to make sure that we protected the rooftops all the way down above the Lincoln Apartments and even further down. And then the initial problem was that the Primavera building was the First Pennsylvania Bank. We needed to have lines on the floors and up on the roof of that building to make sure that fire didn't get in there. And through the efforts of the firemen, it didn't. So they did a great job.
We have to watch our time. We only have about a minute left here. Another bad fire.
Real bad fire there on
Cricket.
Basically Cricket Avenue, between Ardmore Avenue and Cricket. That was Fire Prevention Week in the 70s. That took 10 other properties with it. We call it the United Parcel Garage, but I think it was actually Embassy Decorators. Okay. Embassy Decorators had a number of kitchen cabinets in there, and it had a roof that was a bowstring type roof that was subject to early collapse, and it did come down. We even had one of our firefighters' houses on West Athens on fire back at that time, but they did a great job to make that, to control that fire before it got blocks. Yeah.
Now, Chief Hayden, our time is up,
okay.
And I very much appreciated your coming in and your sharing photos with me and meeting with me. And I'd like to thank the Merion Fire Company and the Lower Merion Historical Society. And I thank also the families of Bob Schwartz, who used to be your photographer for the Merion Fire Company, and the family of Bill Harris, who was the photographer for the Mainline Times. Max Butin helped me edit these things. And I thank our technicians, Mark Murray and Josh Mackley. And again, I thank you very much for coming in today.
Thank you, Ted.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
This is Ted Goldsboro signing off from Lower Merion Living History with the Fire Chief of the Merion Fire Company, Tom Hayden.